Inspiring speakers, they aren't born, they're made. I've helped over 700 people get there, and here are 25 lessons that have helped them the most. Lesson number 1. 99% of the people I've coached, they started their speech in the most unmemorable way possible. They're like, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here to talk about this very interesting topic. Now, that is standard. And that standard version is a missed opportunity. Lesson number 1, start strong. Hey, you only have one chance to leave that first impression. Make it count. Grab their attention with something unexpected, a story, a question, or a surprising statement. 400. The average office desk has 400 times more bacteria than the average toilet seat. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about workplace hygiene. Lesson number 2. Just last week, I had someone in my workshop who shared the intro to her speech. And she said something like this. She said, hello everyone, today I'll show you how to do X, Y, and Z. I've been working on this topic and I think it's very important. I'll show you how it really works today. And as I looked at her, I said, hey, that was I. And I told her, your audience doesn't care about you. They care about themselves. Lesson number 2, lead with a big promise. So instead of talking about yourself, tell them what's in it for them. Let them know what will they gain from listening to you. In today's session, you will learn how to connect with anyone without ever talking about the weather. Lesson number 3. Now here's a crucial mistake I did when I was in my 20s. I was like, on this slide, you see the revenue over time, and it's a very interesting graph on there. Let me read the numbers here real quick. Now, I made the slides the hero of my speech. Only later I realized that my audience, they aren't there for my slides. They're here for me. Lesson number 3, hide the slides. Don't let your slides steal the spotlight. When they're not needed, hide them. So when you're in presenter mode, you can just press the B key on your keyboard to turn your screen black or the W key to turn it white. This will bring the focus back to where it belongs, on you. Lesson number 4. Now, most people wait for those big opportunities to practice public speaking. That weekly Toastmasters meeting, that quarterly report at their company, or that wedding speech. But hey, why wait? Like every conversation, every interaction you have, that is a chance to become a better speaker. Lesson number 4, make your life the arena. Stop waiting for that perfect opportunity. Use those everyday moments with strangers, with friends, with coworkers to evolve as a speaker. Those are the perfect moments where you can try out maybe that new story, speak a little louder, or use pauses more effectively. Make your life the arena. Lesson number 5. There's one thing guaranteed when you present. Something will go wrong. Maybe the lights stop working, maybe you spill some coffee over your shirt, or maybe the screen stops working. Now, inexperienced speakers, they panic in those moments, but advanced speakers, they thrive. Now, what differentiates those speakers is that they trust themselves to handle whatever comes up. Lesson number 5, welcome failure. Now try to put yourself in situations where you will fail. Yes, say yes to that presentation you're not ready for. Join an improv group or share that story at a story slam. Every time you survive one of those moments, you teach your brain, if I can handle that, I can handle anything. This is how you build this unshakable confidence. Lesson number 6. The best way to stay calm when unexpected things happen is to do improv. When you improvise, you will mess up. You will forget that detail. And you will say something that might be completely ridiculous. But you learn how to be okay with that. Lesson number 6. Give impromptu speeches. Just pick any random topic, then set a timer for 2 minutes, and then improvise a speech speaking out loud. No script, no prep, just go for it. Actually, on this note, just recently I've developed 12 improv games that make it very fun and very easy for you to master impromptu speaking. Check out the link in the description below. The more you improvise, the more confident you will become. Lesson number 7. There's one reason why people are so terrified of public speaking. They think like, What if they think I'm not smart enough? What if they realize that I'm not qualified for this? They worry so much about how other people perceive them. And that puts them into that anxious, insecure mode. Lesson number 7, give less. You can learn how to give less by doing a practice called constructive embarrassment. Now for that, you can put yourself in any awkward situation on purpose. And that is really anything. You can go into the street and hug the next streak, or you do a yoga pose in the supermarket, or you go into the subway and start singing this random song. Really anything. The less you care about what other people think, the more comfortable you will be speaking in public. Lesson number 8. Now, most presentations, they suck because speakers show up as a taker. When they speak, they want something from their audience. They want applause, admiration, sales. But people like you're sensitive to that, right? You can sense it if someone just wants to sell you something. Lesson number 8, show up with a giver's mindset. Now a giver, they want to help, they want to inspire, they want to change someone's perspective. Now, how can you show up with a giver's mindset? Well, 2 things that I do usually. First, I repeat in my head, I'm here to give, I'm here to give, I'm here to give. And the second thing is, I visualize one specific person in my audience benefiting from my presentation. So I really make it concrete and I think, who's that person and how will their lives be different after? Show up with a giver's mindset. Lesson number 9. Don't memorize your script word for word. And when people do that and then they forget one line, they're fucked. It completely throws them off and often they can't remember anything after that. Lesson number 9, internalize your speech. What you can do is you can practice your speech at different lengths. For example, you have one 5-minute version, a 3-minute version, a 1-minute version, and finally a 30-second version. This will help you to understand truly the core of your message. It will also help you speak more naturally and really to adapt to anything that is a little bit unexpected. Lesson number 10. Now that one is not for everybody, but about 30% of the people I've coached, they struggle with that. They speak something like this. They're like, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Philipp, and today I'm going to talk about a very exciting topic. They speak at a volume of 3 out of maybe 10. Lesson number 10, raise your baseline volume. If your current level is maybe at a 3, aim for a 5 or a 6. Sure, you don't have to be shouting, but just that clear and confident voice. So how can you practice that? How can you raise your baseline volume? It is again in those everyday encounters. For example, today you're going to the supermarket. Instead of mumbling, hey, how are you? Like go there and say, hi, how are you? And yes, sure, it feels a little bit awkward, unusual at first, but that trains you to speak louder. Lesson number 11. I used to take public speaking very serious. I thought, I need to get this exactly right. I need to show them that everything is perfect. Later, I realized that thinking, that was holding me back the most. Lesson number 11, make it fun. So instead of thinking, oh, I have to do this perfectly, tell yourself, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have fun. When fun is your goal, everything changes. Your energy lightens up, your nerves go away, and you start connecting with your audience. Lesson number 12. In 2014, Harvard Business School professor Alison Wood Brooks ran a fascinating experiment to understand how simple words impact your confidence. For that, she asked a bunch of participants to do one thing before a big moment. Instead of telling themselves, oh, I'm nervous, they were asked to tell themselves, I'm excited. She found that participants who made this simple shift, they performed better in karaoke, scored higher in math tests, and were even rated as the more confident speakers. Lesson number 12. Reframe your anxiety as excitement. So the next time you feel nervous before speaking, don't fight it. Instead, reframe it. Say to yourself, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. Lesson number 13. Now here's one thing that I struggled with the longest, and it still creeps up once in a while. what is it? So I speak normal, but then when I go on stage, I suddenly become this different person. I stand differently, my voice changes, and suddenly I sound more like this motivational speaker. I often go into performer mode, and that is terrible. It just sounds and looks fake. Lesson number 13. Speak like you're chatting with a friend. Tell your speech in the same way as you'd shared with a close friend. Speak naturally. Don't obsess too much about all the techniques and just have fun. Lesson number 14. Are there any questions? No? Okay, cool. Now that's how most Q&A sessions go. Very awkward. Lesson number 14. Be strategic about your Q&A. So instead of asking them, are there any questions? Say, we have time for 3 questions. What questions do you have? Now, why does that work better than asking, well, do you have any questions? Well, first of all, it tricks your audience to believe that there are questions, so they're more likely to actually ask a question. And second, it helps you control the energy in the room. Sometimes those Q&A sessions, they can drag on forever. But by saying that there's only time for 3, well, you actually make sure to end that presentation on a high note. Lesson number 15. Now, what do you do in those 5 to 10 minutes before any presentation? Here's what most people do. They're like, what did I want to say here? Please, Brian, please remember, I need to know this. That is a terrible idea. When you still rehearse what you wanted to say in those 5 minutes before, it will put you in that low energy state when you start. In that state where you're a little bit worried, distracted, and oftentimes overwhelmed. But the good thing is, there's an easy hack to step on stage in the highest, most charismatic energy possible. Lesson number 15. Do a warm-up routine. You can do any 5 to 10 minute warm-up routine before your speech. But here's what I do. First, I shake out my body for like 1 or 2 minutes. And I really try to go as physical as possible. At home, I'm also doing a bunch of weird sounds like rah. So really try to go all in. Second, I breathe into my belly. So I take a deep breath and then slow exhale through my mouth. And third, I usually try to look at a picture of a loved one. In my case, I often look at a picture of my niece or of my sisters. And that just puts me into that mode where I feel relaxed and I just want to help. It doesn't matter that much what you do, but as long as you just do any sort of warm-up routine. Lesson number 16. 99% of the presenters move between their slides incredibly awkward. They say something like, all right, this was now section number 1, and let's move to the next slide, okay? Here you see the revenue over time. That is terrible. It just ruins the flow and kills really any excitement. Lesson number 16, nail the transitions. You can do something to anticipate the awesome stuff that is about to come. For example, this next technique, that's my favorite. Actually, out of all the techniques, this one is the technique that I use the most. You'll love it. When you do this, your audience, they can't help but really lean in. They want to hear what you're about to say. Lesson number 17. We only remember 5% of the information when we hear someone speak. But hey, the problem isn't our memory. It's how the content is communicated. Most speakers, they deliver those mega long, very one-sided monologues. Like no interaction, no engagement, and as a result also no retention. Lesson number 17, turn students into teachers. If you want your audience to really remember 90% of what you say, make them the teacher. And it's actually pretty simple. So once you've shared a key point, you can just ask your audience members, turn to your neighbor and explain the concept in your own words. That's it. But once they become that teacher, they'll remember whatever you said for the rest of their lives. Lesson number 18. Now that one was killing my confidence for years. What I did is oftentimes I gave a speech and after that I started analyzing what I did wrong. And so I was like, all right, I think I lost them there. Wait, why did no one laugh at my joke there? That was a terrible thing to do. It programmed my mind to connect public speaking with stress and failure. And so lesson number 18, celebrate your wins. So instead of focusing on your mistakes, reflect on what went right. So after your speech, ask yourself, what are 3 things I did well? You can say, I'm grateful that I prepared very thoroughly. I'm grateful that I put myself out there. I'm grateful for having tried that new story. So by sharing those 3 things, you will build this long-lasting confidence in speaking. Lesson number 19. You've probably given a few presentations before, but you actually might have no clue how you actually come across. When I started sharing stories and speaking public, I often looked like this grumpy teenager. But back then I didn't know. I only realized that once I actually saw myself speaking on camera. And so lesson number 19, record yourself. Yes, it can be very awkward at first, but it really helps you understand how you come across. And so once you've then watched yourself, you'll know what things you can improve on. Lesson number 20. Most presenters, they know that they need to hook their audience at the start. Hey, which is great, right? It's not bad. But they somehow think that is enough. After the hook, they just bombard their audience with information, stats, and slides. Now, have you ever seen a movie that only hooks you at the beginning? Of course not. Great movies, they keep re-hooking you throughout. Otherwise, you just switch to something else. Lesson number 20, rehook your audience. Rehook them every 2 to 3 minutes. Tell them a story, ask a question, do a quick show of hands, or start a group discussion. Do something to keep them listening. But in case you don't know how, I'll actually include my 20 favorite ways to hook any audience in the description below. Lesson number 21. Just last week, I coached a director who insisted that he didn't want to have more than 5 slides because he said that anything more than that would be too much for this 10-minute presentation. And I know it sounds kind of logical, but that just created a much bigger problem. Now that director crammed so much content onto those 5 slides, like multiple charts, so many numbers, and just this minuscule text that was just impossible to read. So what I suggest, don't worry too much about the amount of slides, but much rather worry about the amount of content per slide. Lesson number 21, focus on 1 idea per slide. Not 2 ideas, not 3, just 1 clear idea. That 1 idea will really help your audience process that information much faster, but also to remember it much longer. Lesson number 22, out of all the delivery skills, this one is the most important. The pause. Now, I know you've heard about the pause before, and you're like, oh, okay, this is boring, I know this already. But here's the thing, most people don't truly understand why they matter. They think that a pause is only used for dramatic effect. Hey, which is good. But for me, a pause is a tool that is for something much deeper. Lesson number 22, pause to relax and refocus. Now, as speakers, we often rush, tense up, and get lost in the flow of our speech. A pause is your chance to breathe, to ground yourself, and to refocus. So when you pause, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what do I really want to say next? Now that just constantly helps you to tell what really matters. Lesson number 23. Now, animations, they have had quite a wild ride. When they first came out, people were obsessed with them. Text flew in like airplanes, images jumped onto the screen, and slides just started to melt away. But then people somehow got tired of them, and animations gained this reputation for being unprofessional. And so people stopped using them. But that's not great. If you give all that information at once, well, your audience, they don't have any reason to keep listening. They already know where it is going. So lesson number 23, use animations if it doesn't distract. Animations are a great tool to raise anticipation, but just watch out that you don't use that animation that explodes or melts, because that would distract from your message. So the better way is just to keep it simple. Like for 99% of your animations, you can just use the normal appear function. That's it. Lesson number 24. Now, people ask me so many times, should I raise my hand like this? Or how should I gesture here? Now, they obsess about body language, and I believe that that is the wrong approach. Now, body language is less about adding more gestures, but it's much more about removing any gestures that are distracting. Now, just so that you know, here are some of the most common distractions that I see in a lot of presentations. The first one is the T-Rex. And people just present like this. And I know this looks awkward, but people do that all the time. They just keep their hands here. The second one is the fidgeter. And people just all the time do something with their hands or objects. They have something in their hand that just makes them appear very nervous. And the third one is oftentimes the hider, where you just hide your hands in the pocket and just leave them there as if you were having something that you don't want to show everyone. So lesson number 24, relax your arms at your side. What you can do is you can just take your hands all the way up and then just let them fall. And then let them rest naturally at your side. Now, this is your home base. Keep your hands there most of the times. And sure, then sometimes you may want to bring them up when you want to highlight that key point, but otherwise, bring them down here again. Lesson number 25. Now, don't end your presentations like this. Thanks for listening, everyone. That's it for today. Are there any questions? This will be the last impression people have from your speech. This will what they will remember. Lesson number 25, end strong. The better way is to end with that planned closing statement, a statement that inspires them to take action. Every single day, you have a chance to become this magnetic speaker. Don't just wait for the stage, but instead embrace every conversation, every interaction as your opportunity to improve. Make your life the arena. Those were 25 lessons I've learned from coaching over 700 speakers. But one skill that we didn't talk about today, but that is really fundamental in public speaking, is storytelling. I've recorded a very similar video to this, but just on storytelling. I'd say check it out and unleash the storyteller that is within you. Enjoy.